Seoul, South Korea, Boeing 737-800 crash investigation, a detailed look into the tragic crash and efforts for safety improvements. Expert witness read after examiner. On Tuesday, a team of U.S. investigators, including representatives from Boeing, examined the site of a devastating plane crash that resulted in the deaths of 179 people in South Korea. The crash, which occurred on Sunday, involved a Boeing 737-800 operated by South Korean budget airline Jeju Air, and authorities are now conducting safety inspections on all Boeing 737-800 aircraft operated by airlines in the country. The investigation aims to determine the cause of the crash and ensure the continued safety of aviation operations in the region. The crash, which occurred at South Korea's southern Muan International Airport, left all but 2 of the 181 people aboard the Jeju Air flight dead. The aircraft was observed in video footage to have landed on its belly without deploying its landing gear, overshooting the runway and eventually crashing into a concrete fence. The plane then burst into flames after the impact. Investigators have reported that the aircraft was experiencing engine trouble at the time of the crash. Preliminary examinations also revealed that the pilots received a bird strike warning from the ground control center and subsequently issued a distress signal. However, many experts have speculated that the failure of the plane's landing gear system was likely the primary cause of the tragic crash. In response to the crash, the South Korean government has initiated a 5-day series of safety inspections on all Boeing 737-800 aircraft operated within the country. The Ministry of Transport confirmed that these inspections will focus on examining maintenance and operational records of the 101 Boeing 737-800s in the nation, which are to be completed by Friday. This move comes after concerns were raised regarding the possible systemic issues related to the Boeing 737-800's hydraulic and electrical systems. The Ministry of Transport also reported that a delegation of 8 U.S. investigators, including representatives from the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, and Boeing, visited the crash site on Tuesday to assist with the investigation. While the results of their examination have not been immediately released, their input is expected to contribute significantly to understanding the cause of the crash. Their investigation is expected to focus on analyzing the flight data recorder, FDR, and cockpit voice recorder, CVR, to determine the root cause of the mechanical failures that led to the crash. Kim Ibe, Jeju Air's president, addressed reporters on Tuesday and announced the company's commitment to enhancing the safety of its aircraft operations. As part of this effort, Jeju Air plans to add more maintenance workers and reduce its flight operations by 10–15% until March. This decision, according to Kim, aims to address any operational shortcomings that may have contributed to the crash and ensure that the airline is adhering to the highest safety standards. John Hansman, an aviation expert from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, weighed in on the cause of the crash, speculating that the failure of the plane's hydraulic control systems likely played a role in the accident. This would explain why the landing gear and wing flaps failed to deploy, as hydraulic systems are responsible for operating these crucial components of the aircraft. Hansman also suggested that the failure to deploy these systems may have forced the pilots to attempt an emergency landing without the necessary control mechanisms in place, further escalating the situation. He stressed that the issue could be linked to a broader problem with the aircraft's control systems, which would explain the urgency with which the pilots tried to land. According to aviation safety expert Najmuddin Meshkati, a professor of engineering at the University of Southern California, the Boeing 737-800, which is an earlier version of the Boeing 737 than the MAX, has a generally good safety record. However, the failure of key systems such as the location broadcasting system, the landing gear system, and the wing flaps system suggests a potential widespread issue affecting the plane's electrical and hydraulic systems. Mishkati emphasized that investigators would likely focus on the flight data and cockpit voice recorders as the primary sources of information to understand what went wrong in the lead-up to the crash. He also expressed confidence that these two pieces of equipment would help reconstruct the events leading up to the tragic incident. The crash has raised questions about the design and safety of Muan International Airport, where the plane overshot the runway. Experts, including Mishkati, have criticized the presence of a solid concrete barrier just a few hundred feet beyond the runway's end. He argued that this posed a significant risk to aircraft that might overshoot the runway, as was the case with the Jeju Air flight. The concrete fence, which failed to break upon impact, has been described as a serious design flaw that worsened the situation for the ill-fated flight. In response, South Korean officials have indicated they will look into the possibility of replacing the existing concrete barrier with a lighter material that could break more easily on impact, potentially preventing further disasters. The crash has also sparked outrage from bereaved families, who are demanding answers from authorities about the handling of the crash aftermath. On Tuesday, Park Han-shin, a representative of the victims' families, accused the government of failing to provide timely support to families. Park revealed that the authorities had not delivered the promised freezers on time, causing concern that the bodies of the victims could decompose before they were returned to their relatives. Park condemned the authorities for failing to fulfill their commitments and criticized them for disrespecting the victims and their families during a difficult time. The crash is now considered the deadliest disaster in South Korea's aviation history in decades. As a result, the South Korean government declared a 7-day national mourning period, which will continue until January 4. The nation has been in shock following the tragedy, and authorities are working diligently to identify the victims, with 175 bodies already identified. DNA tests are being conducted on the remaining 5 bodies to ensure they are properly identified and returned to their families. The crash has left the nation grieving as families await answers about how such a devastating accident could occur. Meanwhile, the investigation into the crash continues, with officials hoping that the flight data and cockpit voice recorders will provide crucial information to help determine the exact cause of the accident. The involvement of U.S. investigators and Boeing experts is seen as a positive step toward understanding the complex factors that contributed to the crash and ensuring that similar incidents are prevented in the future. As authorities continue to search for answers, the crash serves as a stark reminder of the importance of maintaining the highest safety standards in the aviation industry. With investigations ongoing, there is hope that the incident will lead to improvements in both aircraft maintenance practices and airport infrastructure, ultimately preventing further tragedies and ensuring the safety of passengers in the future.